r/ask Reddit. What was your biggest shit? My parents were right moment? Not all your friends need to be forever friends. Some people are just desired to be your friend for that right time in your life. My mom always said, life is like sitting in a train, and at each stop, milestone event, in your life people, friends, family or others, will enter your train or leave it. Made a lot of sense to younger me. This is really good advice. My fiance suffers from depression and the last episode was about how hard it is to make friends after college where you spend every waking moment with close friends. He's convinced that all relationships after that are meaningless because you only see each other occasionally and talk about superficial things. I tried to tell him that just because you see other people less doesn't make that friendship any less meaningful. I might steal your mom's advice. Damn if this ain't true. I lived 10 years in Canada and made some amazing friends. Moved to the US in 2013 and I've only communicated and kept up with one of them. As much as I hate to lose friends, I guess it's just part of life : exact opposite but similar circumstances. I lived in the US for 21 years before moving to Canada. Most of my friends dropped contact with me and I only have 3 I really talk to anymore. They're excited though because I'm moving back on the 23rd. Situations like these can sometimes show you which friends you'll have for life. 2. It was cold and I did need a jacket, but I'll be damned if I'm going to admit that to my mom. Either I walk out of my mom's house looking like a marshmallow, or I freeze to death out of sheer principle. There is no middle ground. Take care of your teeth. Thank God for dental insurance. 2 root canals, both $1,800, plus 2 crowns, both $2,000, $7,600 worth of dental work for 2 ducking teeth. FML. It would have been cheaper for you to fly to South Korea, get all that shit done, vacation for 2 weeks and fly back. Just another option for dental problems in the future. If you're Canadian and you're injured in the US, it's cheaper to book an express flight back to Canada and get treated there than it is to get treated in the US. It might even be cheaper than just the ambulance ride. After a breakup with my first real boyfriend, my dad told me that there is no greater emotional pain than seeing your child hurting. Damn. A couple of decades later, I realized he's right. I've seen my father cry twice in my entire life. The second time was when his mother passed away recently, and the first was a few years ago when I opened up and told him about my depression and how suicidal I was at the time. Mine did the day I got a tattoo. He said, why don't you love the way God made you? Second was the last time I saw him alive, saying he was sorry he couldn't buy me the world or see me get married. My mom said he cried when I was born and kept saying I wasn't his cause, I was too beautiful. My dad encouraged me not to buy a house with my at the time girlfriend and instead save my money and buy one on my own or with my brother. Obviously I didn't listen. Pissed away probably $30,000 and about 5 years of my early 20s. I should have listened. Start saving as soon as you can. You don't have as much money as you think you do. Told me that when I had a part-time job whilst living at home. Thought I was loaded until I moved out and realized how expensive life is. Yep. Take the amount of money you think you need to live on your own, then double it to get the real amount. My grandmother didn't like my boyfriend, said he was lazy, arrogant, and using me. A couple of months after college when I'm making him wake up after partying all night so I can drive him to work on time, I realized, shit, she's right. Are you my daughter, mom? My mother's grandma wasn't fond of my dad. He acted like a perfectly kind lad, but there was something about his manner that ticked her off. My dad isn't a totally horrible husband, but he was a functional alcoholic and did several horrible things to my mother. I sometimes remind her that she should have listened to her elders, not that I listened to her. Time flies faster than you think. Yep, I turned 28 this week. My youth is almost over. WTF happened? I read once that your life and how long it feels consists of the number of memories you have. Therefore if you do the same routine every day for years, you've created one memory. On the other hand, if you do many new and different things every day you create more memories, thus a longer life. I genuinely believe this to be true. Since 2008 to 2014 I was active as duck, traveling, forcing myself outside of my comfort zone. Those years seemed like childhood years. The past 4 years of routine and idleness, however, has flown by. It's very easy to fall into a rut and stay there. I'm 34 now and I need to get back to my old adventurous self. Otherwise I'll turn 50 next year. I've found that one of the biggest culprits is having a job you hate. If you constantly need to block out painful hours of your life from memory, everything will feel like a blur and you'll get old very quickly. I remember one year I took off work to go back to school. That year lasted 5 years. Same problem comes with doing nothing. If you don't have a job or you otherwise sit around doing nothing all day, you'll get old even faster than a job can make you. If you have a lot of free time on your hands, find a way to make memories. Challenge yourself to read 50 books in 1 year, or watch 100 movies, or play 50 video games, or build something, or finish something you've been putting off for years. It all comes down to memories. If you pack lots of proud or fond memories into a year, that year will feel properly long. A little while after I had finally got my ex out of my life for good, they had been against our relationship from day one. My mum enjoyed that conversation. I think in this instance it is character building to learn these lessons, and you will only truly appreciate it through the experience. You learn a lot about yourself too. My lovingly overbearing mother was ice cold to a guy I brought home. I was shocked as it was very unlike her to be this way. Then he abused me, so mom was right. Same. I will say that I do think that I stayed with my ex longer than I would have because of how my parents handled the situation. Parents, if your kid is with someone you don't like, don't scream and rave at them about that person. All it does is make your child feel like they can't talk to you about anything to do with the relationship. I only seriously considered leaving when I was able to talk about it with my aunt and uncle, who had a calm, rational talk with me where they didn't judge. They just listened and gave their opinions. I distinctly remember telling my mom I don't get why I'm too young to know what love is. I'm 16, I'm not a kid. Looking back on that relationship, I'm amazed she didn't laugh in my face. It was either that or my mom would guess exactly what my then girlfriend was all about, and I'd try to hit her with the "mom, you don't get it. She's different than the others. She was the same. Use condoms, son." Now I'm father. You know, there have to be tons of families who are nothing more than a lineage of fathers warning their sons and their sons disobeying. I'd say that's largely why we aren't extinct yet. Were your retainer. Lost that damn thing a week after I got my braces off and was worried about getting in trouble with my parents, so I never said anything. Cut to 20 years later and I'm looking into Invisalign because my teeth have become noticeably crooked. That shit is like $4,000. This post just made me so extremely angry at myself. I think my teeth are worse than they were before braces. I just got braces not long, and my friends who got them before were all saying the same. When you remove the braces, keep that retainer on. Definitely don't want worse teeth than before. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Hey dad, I was just contacted by a Nigerian prince who needs assistance. I will be handsomely rewarded for helping him. Son. I sent him my bank details and an initial amount of money to kickstart everything. You're gonna regret all this slacking off. Jacking. There are no regrets. Struggling with a decision? Jack off. If your answer is the same afterwards, it's the right answer. Going out with a girl? Jack off. If you still want it, she's special. You really shouldn't spend money if it's not in your bank account. Credit cards. Conversely, a credit card is a great tool if you never pay interest. Don't start smoking. It's addicting and expensive. Oh, I wish I listened to them. I smoked for 15 years. I'm 12 years smoke free now. You can do it. There will come a day when I wish I can take afternoon naps every day. I now work from home 4 days a week and have to fight the urge to go and lie down in the afternoon. When they warned me how easy it is to stay in a comfortable situation rather than the right one, I wasted a lot of time because I was cozy with the routine. Then I looked up and realized I had spent 3 years being comfortable. That goes double for a career. I had a safe, comfortable job all through my 20s that got me nowhere. I'm 10 years behind all my friends, but it was a really fun 20s. As a kid, I was always fascinated, obsessed, even with being an adult, being college educated, living on my own, making my own money, etc. My parents always told me, don't wish your life away. Adult life isn't as easy and fun as it looks. I've since learned that is a severe understatement. Back in high school I got caught smoking weed a couple of times. After getting busted, my dad said, "Watch, now that you aren't smoking, see if your smoking pals will stick around." Sure enough, those pals didn't stick around. When your ex sends you texts threatening your life, don't write it off as a bluff or scare tactic. Get the restraining order. It will come in handy when your ex comes crawling through your window at 2 AM ready to slice your throat. Your parents also had similar experiences? No, but I think I was being naive when their life experiences had taught them to take such things more seriously. Now every time I see a murder/suicide BFGF husband-wife situation I thank the heavens my parents were on me about protecting myself. I was one of those artsy but also academic kids. I wanted to be a professional artist, but still applied only to liberal arts colleges because I wanted to have an intellectual experience or some such naive notion. While visiting a school, my father sat next to me as I waited for my interview in the admissions office and said, "I don't think you should go here. I looked at the course catalog and the biology program here is too molecular for you." My father had never said much about any potential career for me. Both my parents had their own lives and just had a whatever makes you happy attitude. It was a total non sequitur for me and, of course, I completely blew him off. He never mentioned anything like it again. I did pursue my art career and after 2 years I left my liberal arts college to go to art school. However, I returned to the original school after realizing I would need a real job to support myself while I made my art, likely in an art gallery. Returning started an odd cascade of events that eventually landed me, 10 years later, starting my PhD in evolutionary biology. 15 years later I am, indeed, an evolutionary biologist with a good career and I do think of this as my calling. I work with some molecular biologists for the medical part of my research, but it's true that this field feels very foreign to me and not interesting in the way my own is. I asked my dad one day, "So, you knew it all along?" "Huh," he said, "yes, but I knew it had to be your decision." God, do I hate when they are that right. Since the time I was 12 my mom had said I was gonna be an engineer, went to college to get my degree in Econ International Relations, took a few math classes to bolster the econ. That led to getting into Comp C and then becoming a dev for a few years, as close to engineering as you can get without actually becoming one. Disturbing now how close I am in job function to what my mom and uncles did. Every parent was a kid at one time. You hear it and think it. However, when you have kids a realization hits. Both my parents have passed. Dad always seemed like a big kid to me, but I hadn't ever really clicked with my mom until this last year cause she was so strict. After she went, I acquired so many photos of her and my dad in their elementary to college days and it really is an insane realization to see it for yourself. They were just like you once. Really almost every little thing that I used to challenge they were right on. The big one for me was always being told to clean my room. My mum in particular was always on my back about it and at the time I had the mentality of my room, my space, my mess. I couldn't understand why she would even look in my room if she knew that mess would bother her. Now I own my own place and the idea of someone constantly messing it up is horrible. I completely see now that my parents worked hard for our house. It was their home long before I was around, and they liked it looking a certain way. The same goes for putting away my clean washing ironing. My dad would be furious that he'd iron my school uniform every Sunday and then I'd just toss it on the back of a chair for the week. Again, at the time I didn't see it as being a big deal, but now that I know how laborious a task washing and ironing is, I'd be absolutely heartbroken if some little shit just tossed it on the floor. Look the part then learn your lines. In other words, focus on appearances initially because people judge you on first impressions. If you've nailed the body language, tone, eye contact and dress, you can figure out what you're doing after the fact. This is such solid advice. Sure, we wish people wouldn't judge a book by its cover, but it is just too easy. This isn't that exciting, but when I was 17 I didn't know what I wanted to do after high school. I was a little shit back then. My mom tried to convince me to take the paralegal program at a community college and I was like hell no. Welp, 8 years later I ended up in the paralegal degree program and loved it. IDK how she knew I'd like it so much, especially back then. Wish I had correct posture like they kept telling me to do. That shit catches up to you eventually. Immediately straightens back basically my reaction to all of these replies. I honest to God never had those parents are so shitty mentality. I usually trusted their advice. I guess the only thing was an alcohol warning. It starts out fun in college. Then you have some during the week after work to take the edge off. And then you notice it helps you get to bed. So you have 2 at bedtime. But then you realize you need it to sleep. And it becomes 3-4. Then you're thinking about your cocktail on your way home. Or as it gets closer to 5 PM. Then you have 1 to shake off your hangover in the morning. Or a quick drink at lunch. It creeps up on you. I think is the point. I'm at the need it to sleep phase. Unfortunately. You'd be surprised by how much alcohol actually ducks up your sleep cycle. What it is doing is knocking you out. And then making you have to transition from unconsciousness into a real sleep cycle several hours into the night. Many people suddenly wake up during this transition to drink more, while others just toss and turn and get bad sleep without knowing about it. It seems like the opposite of the truth. But if you quit drinking, the first couple weeks will suck, but then you'll sleep better than you have in years. Also, be serious about limiting caffeine and or nicotine intake, especially after 2 PM. It's a lesser evil but it is a part of the same cycle. Many people dose themselves with caffeine and nicotine all day, then think they need alcohol or other downers at night to reverse the effects of the stimulants. You should stop being friends with them. They're walking right over you. Whoa, should have listened sooner. Always wear clean underwear. As a teenager, I'd use any excuse not to shower. I hated it. It took effort, took time, and was boring. If I had a girlfriend, I'd shower right before hanging out with her, then wait until the next time I hung out with her to shower again. Regardless of how long that took, I was a musky teenager. Well, one night I decided to walk to the little corner store and pay a bum to buy me some beer. After the beer was acquired, I headed off to a friend's place. On the way, I ran into a cute girl from school. She convinced me to go to her house, which was right around the corner, and hang out. After a few beers, she decided to give me a blowjob. The second she unbuttoned my pants she was met with the stench of unwashed boxer shorts that had been clinging to unwashed 17-year-old balls and ass. Needless to say, she recoiled in disgust. Luckily she offered to take a shower with me, which led to more than just a blowjob. Since that day, the day I almost lost something I rarely get, I make it a point to wash my balls and ass extra thoroughly, and wear clean underwear. The friends you have when you are 14 are not the people you need to ride or die with. Focus on your studies and try to develop a broader social circle. At least I focused on school. I was constantly told, your siblings are your true best friends. Screw you. I wanna go hang out with my regular friends, not my family. I've been out of high school for 15 years now, and haven't talked to anyone I knew from high school since 2014. I talk to my siblings daily. You keep trying to do wheelies on your dirt bike, you're going to break a leg. You'll end up acting like your parents in surprising ways. A high school education really is sort of mandatory if you want a job, and the good ones require even more schooling. Did you know there's a school after high school? Grades 13 through 16 or something? I know someone who scoffs when people insist on finishing high school, saying she didn't and she's fine. She's in her mid-20s. And a friend who's known her longer than I have, plus 5 years, has never seen her work. To me, even if your grades are terrible, it's more about the soft skills a diploma suggests. Can you look like you're paying attention for 30 minutes at a time? Can you adhere to the semblance of a schedule? Can you manage basic human interactions? Get some work done on time. Read and write a message to someone who doesn't speak your slang. There are exceptions, but very few. My parents pretty much forced me to learn to drive when I was 17. I hated it. I was terrible at it. None of my friends were learning to drive and I was fine on public transport, even though we lived in the middle of nowhere. It took me 4 times to pass my test, and I just wanted to give up. Now I see my friends from home who never learned, by choice, not because they couldn't afford it, and I don't know how they live. My hometown is really in the sticks, and the public transport infrastructure is terrible. Getting around must be a nightmare for them. My parents hated a friend that I had as a kid named Nicole. If you're reading this, Nicole, go duck yourself. I was basically a loner and needed friends, and Nicole became my friend really quickly. But my parents literally hated her and I never understood why. Long story short, she basically blackmailed me on MSN and pretended to be some guy from our class. She and some other people also left me alone in the mall the first time I went, and I was so terrified because I was so unfamiliar with it. And then she also stole a shit ton of stuff from me, and obviously I found out way too late. I deleted her from all my social media and blocked her, and she still found a way to contact me. Ducky Beach, my parents were right about you all along. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.